Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and I just wanted to do a quick video over this news that's come out today about Jamie Dornan, who, of course, was the star of the The Fall. God, just totally got a lack of connection there. So he's the star of The Fall. He's also the star of the 50 Shades of Grey series. And Jamie Dornan is an actor, an Irish actor, which I'm sure most of you have heard of. Let's just, well, we won't have a look at him. We'll have a look at the story. I want to tell you the story first. So the reason I've sort of jumped on totally impromptu to do this video, because the news that came out today was that Jamie had a suspected heart attack after having a brush with processionary caterpillars when he was in Italy. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this, because there's probably a lot of you out there, especially in the UK or other countries, apart from Europe, because of course we can't consider really the UK and Europe now in the same way, but countries like Spain, Italy, I don't know actually what other countries these caterpillars are in, but they're very, very dangerous, not only to people. It's rare that a person dies because of exposure, but dogs, your dogs are really at risk from these caterpillars. So let's have a look at them. I don't think you have them in the UK. I don't think so. Somebody else might tell me about that. But they're the most horrible things. They're like something off a horror film. You know, any horror film that you've ever seen, this is how these caterpillars are. And this is how you can see in the actual trees themselves when they're covered with the webs and things. You know when they're around, because they're in pine trees and they have like these web-like nests. So you see them in the trees, and then once a year, round about this time, I think it's only once a year, they sort of drop down and they start this procession. I have no idea what the purpose of it is. Eventually they turn into moths like most caterpillars do. Here's a picture of the moth that they turn into. But you can see the processions. When they first come out of the nest, they go into these lines, and you see them often in the woods in Spain and presumably in Italy as well, which is how Jamie Dornan's, the doctors think that Jamie Dornan has got ill. And the problem with them is in their spines. So it's a good defense mechanism for them. But these spines that come off them, they're poisonous, especially to dogs. I mean, they contain a small amount of poison. So it's difficult. I think it's quite unusual for them to kill a person. But it's very, very, unfortunately, very normal for them to kill a dog. If a dog ate one or sniffs it and inhales the spines, it's poisonous. And this is apparently what has happened to Jamie Dornan. So I want to show you the news article, which was from LBC. So Jamie Dornan rushed to hospital after collapsing from a suspected heart attack following a brush with toxic caterpillars. So he was over playing golf in Portugal. Sorry, I thought it was Italy. It was Portugal. So they're saying he's lucky to be alive after having an encounter with toxic caterpillars in Portugal. So he's only 41. He was on holiday in Portugal. Of course, he was in The Tourist as well. I haven't actually seen that film. He was on holiday in Portugal with some friends when the incident occurred. They'd been playing on a golfing resort while they were away. So golfing resorts are quite often surrounded by pine trees. So Dornan and his pal Gordon Smart began experiencing symptoms of a heart attack and medics sent Smart to hospital, and Dornan followed closely behind as he collapsed soon after his friend had been rushed away. So he said, it turns out we'd brushed up against hairy processionary caterpillars and been very lucky to come out of that one alive, said Smart. He's very handsome, isn't he, Jamie? I think he's more handsome now. Because he's quite a lot younger than me. And when I first saw him in 50 Shades of Grey, it just wasn't right. For me, he wasn't right for Christian. He was too clean cut. He was too young. But of course, it's more that I was too old, because I know a lot of people really liked him, and that a lot of younger women liked him. But I liked him in The Fall, because I was like the bad guys as well. So I liked him in The Fall, where he was a bit more sinister. Unfortunately, that's just, one of those things. So anyway, the next day, he said, we played golf. We were all absolutely dreadful, and I started to feel tingling in my left hand and then tickling in my left arm. I'm the son of a GP, and I thought, this is normally the sign of a heart attack. So he said, I'm a fairly healthy guy, but once you start thinking you're having a heart attack, you're pretty sure you're convincing yourself that you're having one. And so he later woke up in a hospital bed where he was questioned by doctors about their alcohol consumption the night before, which they're probably, as soon as you get a British person in Spain or Portugal or any of those areas with problems, they'd be questioning the alcohol consumption. But they ruled out alcohol as a potential cause, and they concluded that caterpillars were the likely cause of the symptoms. So after they got back to their holiday home, Smart said Jamie told him, dear me, Gordon, about 20 minutes after you left, my left arm went numb, my left leg went numb, my right leg went numb, and I found myself in the back of an ambulance. So Portuguese medics later got in touch with them to say processionary caterpillars had been suspected of killing dogs in the area. And Smart said they were very lucky to come out of it alive, and that brushing up against hairy caterpillars on the golf course was the likely reason for their conditions. So the thing is, this is good in a way that they're okay, and this has come out, because this does happen. These caterpillars, they're horrible, nasty things. And when they come out, you just get used to it when you live in Spain, to always at the time of year when once you start to see them in the trees, it can be, it's normally around about, this time I suppose, or coming up to the spring, you start to see these nests, first of all, with the caterpillars inside. It's like something from Alien, isn't it? And look, and then and then it comes to a point where they sort of, the nest breaks, I suppose, and they drop down, and then they start doing this procession. So you normally only see them in the countryside, in the campo. Of course, all the golf courses are out in the country. So what I would say to you, just the reason I'm doing this video is, if you're ever in Spain, Portugal, maybe France, I'm not anywhere where there's pine trees, just watch out for these things. And not only for you, because you may never really go near them, but your dogs, when they're, going in the undergrowth and what have you, they're sniffing things out. And I just wanted to tell you a story which happened to me with one of my dogs, not the dogs I've got now, but the little dogs I had before. And when they were building houses behind me, where first of all, it was just my house here. Well, not just my house, but there were one row of houses. And they started building behind, and they brought down the pine trees. There was a couple of pine trees behind my house. And they knocked them down to build a house, sort of houses back in onto my row. And that's when it happened. And now I didn't know much about those caterpillars then. But this bloody caterpillar, or a couple of them, what they did was they came. Now I've got a house behind me, so you can't come into my house from behind it, if you like, because it's blocked by another house. So, but then it was open because they were building the house. They knocked down the pine tree, and these caterpillars came up through my sort of back patio and through my house. And I hadn't even realized, because at that time, this is quite, 20 years ago, I didn't know anything really about these caterpillars. And what happened was I had some people over for dinner, and off they went. They went home, and we were getting ready to go to bed. And my other two little dogs that I used to have, they used to sleep downstairs because I didn't do classes downstairs then. I had a school that, I rented, a locale that I rented. So my dogs at night, I would put them downstairs to sleep. That's where their blankets and their basket was, etc. Into the basement. And luckily, I always think, I mean, obviously, my little dog, she has died now, but she was 20 when she finally died. Luckily, I just noticed before I put her down into the basement, because if I would have put them down into the basement, I think when I would have opened the door that morning to bring them back up, I don't think she would have been with us anymore. Anyway, I just suddenly noticed that she was acting really strangely. So she was sat, but she was swaying from side to side, almost as if she was drunk. It was like that. And I was thinking, what's she doing that for? And when I put my hand in front of her face, she was flinching, like as if she didn't see it coming, and then suddenly it was there. It was like a big flinch, and her eyes looked really strange. And as I say, she was sort of rocking from side to side, almost rotating as she was sat down, like she was dizzy or, like tripping. I think she was sort of tripping in a way, because these caterpillars had poisoned her, I think. Anyway, so I phoned my friends who were on their way home, and I said, look, I've got this problem. And luckily they came back, because I'd been drinking, I'd been having a dinner party at my house. I'd had some wine or whatever. But luckily one of them hadn't been drinking, because they were doing the drive, had to drive home anyway. So they came back. They took us to the emergency vet, the 24-hour vet. And the vet looked at her and pumped her stomach, kept her in overnight, pumped her stomach, and said to me, she looks like she's been poisoned. Has she been anywhere where she might have eaten poison? I said, well, no, because she's been in all evening, and it's only, just gone out for, the final sort of wee of the day before I was just about to put her to bed. But when I got home and I looked on my patio, there was one of these caterpillars on the patio. So this caterpillar had got there, and Bella, bless her, that was her name, Bella. She would eat anything, because she was a rescue dog. She was a street dog. She was found on the streets with 4 puppies, bless her, just a tiny little dog. And so she would eat anything that was put in front of her, literally. I think that was a throwback from her days as a street dog, when she just had to survive. So she would have tried to eat that caterpillar. The hairs off the caterpillar probably went up her nose, and that poisoned her. But luckily, thank God, I noticed before I put her downstairs into the basement for, to sleep, because I literally do. Well, the vet told me she would not have survived. She survived because they, looked after. They kept her in intensive care, doggy intensive care all night. And obviously, I just wanted her to be okay. But I was panicking about how much it was going to cost. But I think it was about 120 euros, because here in Spain, another good thing about Spain is the vets bills are so much less. When people tell me what they pay for vets in the UK, I think, oh my God, how do people even afford to keep pets? It's, because things come up that are unforeseen, don't they, like that? Anyway, I went to get her the next morning, and then I took her back. I don't know if it was the next day or a couple of days later. I can't remember very well because it literally was almost 20 years ago, if not 20 years ago. And she was fine. She was fine. She made a complete recovery. But you do have to be careful. So when you're walking in the campo, which means the countryside, which would include golf courses. So what I'm saying is, for people who come over to these countries, to Spain, sometimes just to play golf, because of the weather, etc. Be careful when you're going to get your golf ball. If your golf ball goes into the pine trees, just be careful, because these horrible things, they could be there. And if your dog, they won't, they obviously don't come attacking your dog. But if your dog's a dog like my dog was, that would, dogs are all different, aren't they? Some dogs just go for anything, and other dogs don't bother about things. But I've heard of many, many people whose dogs have been poisoned and unfortunately sometimes died. The best case scenario is they get a lot of irritation. Look, you can see there on that dog's tongue. The best case scenario is they get a lot of irritation that can be dealt with. But the worst case scenario, of course, if the dog dies, because it is poison, it is toxic, it's the caterpillar's defense mechanism. They're horrible things, actually. And yeah, the more you look at these sort of cocoon type things, it literally is like Alien, isn't it? Gives you the creeps. Absolutely gives you the creeps. So I just wanted to jump on here. I know it's nothing to do with true crime. I buggered up the algorithm again, but never mind, I don't care. I just thought it was important that people know, especially, if you're planning on going on holiday, or if you're a golfer, just be aware of these horrible things. Okay, so stay safe. Don't go near any caterpillars. Remember to live and love wisely, carefully. I'll be back later if you're watching this when this video goes out on the 24th of January in the afternoon, I will be back tonight with a members live. So till I see you again, may your God go with you. Bye.